Trusting Allah when life feels clear and comfortable is easy. When blessings are visible and things are going according to our expectations, it is natural for the heart to feel confident that Allah is taking care of us. However, the real test of faith begins when life moves in a direction that we do not understand. There are moments when events unfold in ways that seem confusing, painful, or completely opposite to what we prayed for. In such moments, the believer is reminded of a powerful truth. Allah's plan is always wiser than our understanding. Human beings view life through a narrow window. Our knowledge is limited by time, emotion, and personal experience. We see only a small part of the story, while Allah sees the entire picture from beginning to end. When something unexpected happens, the human mind immediately searches for explanations. We ask ourselves why things went wrong, why a door closed, or why a difficulty appeared when we were trying our best. Sometimes we blame ourselves, sometimes we blame circumstances, and sometimes we feel lost because nothing seems to make sense. Yet faith invites the believer to step beyond these questions and recognize that Allah's wisdom operates beyond human calculations. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that Allah knows what we do not know. This simple statement contains deep comfort. It tells us that even when we cannot see the reason behind events, there is still a reason that exists within Allah's infinite knowledge. Many times in life, what appears to be a setback is actually a form of protection. A person may desperately want a particular opportunity, relationship, or plan to succeed. They may pray for it constantly and work hard to achieve it. When it suddenly fails, the heart feels disappointed and confused. But years later, when the believer looks back, they often realize that losing that opportunity saved them from something worse or redirected them towards something far better. This is one of the clearest demonstrations of Allah's wisdom. What we interpret as loss may actually be divine guidance, guiding us away from harm. History is filled with examples that remind believers of this truth. Many prophets experienced moments where their circumstances seemed extremely difficult and confusing, yet those very moments were part of Allah's greater plan. When a believer reflects on these stories, they begin to understand that the path of faith has never been a straight line of ease. Instead, it is a journey where trust in Allah carries the heart through moments of uncertainty. This understanding reshapes the way a believer views difficulties. Instead of seeing them only as obstacles, they begin to see them as chapters in a larger story written by Allah. Every challenge becomes a moment where faith can grow stronger. When a person accepts that Allah's plan is wiser than their own understanding, they begin to release the heavy burden of trying to control every outcome. They realize that while they are responsible for effort, the results belong to Allah alone. Trust in Allah does not mean abandoning effort or responsibility. Islam teaches believers to work hard, make wise decisions, and use the abilities Allah has given them. At the same time, they recognize that no matter how carefully they plan, the final outcome rests in Allah's hands. This balance between effort and trust is what creates true peace in the believer's heart. They do their best, but they also accept whatever result Allah chooses, knowing that His wisdom surpasses their expectations. Sometimes the greatest challenge is accepting outcomes that hurt deeply. Losing something precious, facing unexpected hardship, or watching plans fall apart can shake the strongest hearts. Yet even in these painful moments, faith gently reminds the believer that Allah's wisdom is never separated from His mercy. Allah does not create events randomly or without purpose. Every situation is shaped by divine knowledge and care, even if the wisdom remains hidden for a long time. When a believer reflects deeply on this idea, they begin to understand that life is not meant to be fully understood by the human mind. If everything made perfect sense immediately, there would be little room for faith. Trust in Allah requires humility. It requires accepting that the Creator's knowledge is limitless while human knowledge is small. This humility allows the heart to surrender peacefully to Allah's will, even when questions remain unanswered. As this trust grows stronger, the believer begins to experience a different kind of peace. Instead of being overwhelmed by confusion, they feel reassured that their life is guided by the one who knows every detail of the past, present, and future. Even when they cannot see the road ahead, they know the one who controls the road. This awareness transforms fear into patience and uncertainty into quiet confidence. Believing that Allah's plan is wiser than our understanding also teaches us to be patient with life's timing. Humans often want things to happen quickly. When something good appears delayed, frustration can arise. Yet delays are often part of Allah's perfect design. Sometimes we are not ready for the blessings we ask for. Sometimes certain events must happen first so that the blessing can arrive at the right moment. If Allah gave everything immediately, we might receive things before we are prepared to appreciate or manage them. Through patience and trust, the believer gradually learns to see life differently. Instead of judging events only by immediate feelings, they begin to look deeper. They understand that Allah's wisdom may unfold slowly over time. What seems confusing today may become clear tomorrow. What appears painful now may lead to unexpected goodness later. This perspective allows the believer to move forward with hope even during uncertain times. The second key reality that strengthens this trust is the understanding that human vision is limited, while Allah sees the unseen. Human beings live within the boundaries of what they can observe and experience. Our senses capture only a fraction of reality. We see what is directly in front of us, but we cannot see the countless factors shaping events beyond our awareness. Allah, however, knows every hidden detail. He knows the intentions in every heart, the consequences of every decision, and the unseen outcomes of every situation. This difference between human knowledge and divine knowledge explains why life sometimes unfolds in ways that surprise us. A person may feel certain that a particular path is best for them. They may feel confident that success lies in a specific direction. Yet Allah may guide them away from that path because He sees dangers or consequences that the person cannot see. In this way, divine guidance protects believers even when they feel disappointed at first. Understanding the limits of human vision encourages humility. It reminds us that our opinions and judgments are not always accurate reflections of reality. What we perceive as good may carry hidden harm, and what we perceive as bad may contain hidden blessings. This is why Islam encourages believers to trust Allah's wisdom rather than relying solely on personal judgment. When a believer accepts that their vision is limited, they begin to approach life with greater patience. Instead of reacting with frustration whenever something unexpected happens, they pause and remind themselves that Allah sees what they cannot see. This reminder softens the heart and prevents despair from taking over during difficult moments. Another important aspect of limited human vision is that emotions often influence how we interpret events. When something painful occurs, the immediate emotional response can make the situation feel hopeless or unfair. But emotions do not always reflect the deeper reality of what Allah is planning. With time and reflection, believers often discover that the events they once feared were actually guiding them toward growth, maturity, or spiritual closeness with Allah. This understanding also deepens gratitude for the blessings we already have. Since we cannot see the unseen dangers that Allah protects us from, we may not realize how many hardships have been quietly prevented in our lives. Every day, Allah may be guiding events in ways that shield us from harm without us even noticing. Recognizing this hidden protection increases a believer's appreciation for Allah's care. Faith grows stronger when a person accepts that they do not need to understand everything in order to trust Allah. Just as a child trusts a loving parent without fully understanding every decision, the believer learns to trust the Creator's wisdom even when the reasons remain hidden. This trust does not eliminate difficulties, but it transforms the way the heart experiences them. Instead of feeling abandoned during confusing times, the believer remembers that Allah's knowledge surrounds every moment. Nothing happens outside His awareness, and nothing escapes His wisdom. Even the smallest detail of a person's life is known to Him. This awareness creates a sense of security that remains steady even when circumstances change. Over time, the believer begins to realize that trusting Allah in moments of confusion is one of the highest forms of faith. It requires patience, humility, and deep reliance on Allah's knowledge. When someone reaches this level of trust, they discover that peace does not come from understanding every event, but from knowing that Allah understands everything perfectly. This perspective turns life into a journey guided by faith rather than fear. Each moment, whether joyful or difficult, becomes part of a larger story written by the one whose wisdom never fails. Even when the path seems unclear, the believer continues forward with confidence, knowing that the one who sees the unseen is guiding every step. Sometimes confusion is the beginning of guidance. Human beings naturally seek clarity in every part of life. We want to understand why things happen, where our journey is leading, and how the future will unfold. When events appear unclear or unpredictable, the mind becomes restless and the heart feels unsettled. Yet many times in life, the very moments that seem confusing are the starting points of deep transformation and divine guidance. Confusion can act as a doorway that moves a person away from overconfidence in their own plans and redirects them toward reliance on Allah. There are periods in life when everything appears uncertain. Plans suddenly collapse, relationships change, or opportunities that once seemed certain disappear without explanation. In those moments, struggles to understand what direction to take. But within that uncertainty lies an opportunity for growth. When a person no longer feels fully in control, they begin to turn toward Allah with greater sincerity. Their prayers become deeper, their reflection becomes more honest, and their heart becomes more open to guidance. Often, clarity comes only after a person passes through confusion. If life always moved in straight lines, people might rarely pause to reflect on their purpose or their connection with Allah. Confusion disrupts routine thinking and forces the heart to search for meaning beyond immediate circumstances. This search often leads a person closer to faith, humility, and spiritual awareness. In many cases, confusion reveals truths that were previously hidden. When everything appears stable, people may overlook important signs in their lives. But when uncertainty arrives, they begin to examine their decisions, their priorities, and their intentions more carefully. This reflection can lead to powerful realization. A person might discover that they were pursuing goals that were not truly beneficial for them, or that they were relying too heavily on worldly expectations rather than spiritual guidance. Through confusion, Allah sometimes redirects a person toward the path they were always meant to follow. What initially feels like being lost may actually be a gentle push toward a better destination. Many believers look back on confusing periods of their lives and recognize that those moments played a crucial role in shaping their character, strengthening their faith, and guiding them toward opportunities they would never have discovered otherwise. Confusion also softens the heart. When people feel certain about everything, they may become proud or overly confident in their own judgment. But uncertainty reminds them of their human limitations. It reminds them that true knowledge belongs to Allah alone. This realization nurtures humility, and humility opens the door for guidance. A heart that recognizes its need for Allah becomes more receptive to His signs, His wisdom, and His direction. Sometimes guidance arrives slowly during confusing times. It may come through small realizations, meaningful conversations, or unexpected experiences. The believer begins to notice signs that gradually illuminate the path ahead. What once felt chaotic begins to reveal a hidden order designed by Allah's wisdom. Another powerful aspect of confusion is that it encourages patience. Instead of rushing toward quick solutions, the believer learns to wait, reflect, and seek guidance through prayer and contemplation. This patience strengthens spiritual maturity. It teaches the heart that not every answer needs to arrive immediately, and that trusting Allah's timing is part of faith. Confusion can also protect a person from making decisions based solely on impulse or emotion. When things are unclear, a believer is more likely to pause and seek Allah's guidance through sincere supplication. This pause often prevents mistakes and allows wisdom to grow gradually. In this way, confusion becomes a form of mercy that slows down the pace of life and invites deeper reflection. Many stories from the lives of righteous people show that guidance often emerges from moments of uncertainty. A person may feel unsure about their direction, but as they continue to seek Allah sincerely, doors begin to open one after another. The path that once seemed invisible becomes clearer step by step. Through this process, the believer realizes that confusion was never meant to destroy their faith. It was meant to strengthen it. When the heart embraces this perspective, confusion no longer feels like a sign of failure. Instead, it becomes part of a meaningful journey toward understanding. The believer begins to see uncertainty as a stage in the unfolding of Allah's plan. Just as dawn gradually replaces darkness, Guidance gradually replaces confusion when a person continues to trust Allah and remain patient. Hard moments often hide divine wisdom. Life contains moments that test the limits of human patience. These moments can appear as loss, disappointment, illness, broken plans, or emotional pain. During such experiences, the immediate reaction of the heart is often sorrow or frustration. It can feel as though life has taken an unexpected and painful turn. Yet hidden within many of these hard moments is a wisdom that becomes visible only with time and reflection. Difficult experiences shape the character of a believer in ways that comfort and ease cannot. Hardships push people beyond their familiar boundaries. They challenge habits, expose weaknesses, and create opportunities for spiritual growth. Through trials, a person learns resilience, gratitude, humility, and deeper reliance on Allah. One of the hidden wisdoms within hardship is that it reminds people of their dependence on Allah. When life is smooth, it is easy to become distracted by daily routines and worldly pursuits. But hardship interrupts that comfort and draws the heart back toward its Creator. In moments of pain, prayers become more sincere and the connection with Allah becomes stronger. Hard moments also reveal the strength that Allah has placed within a believer. Many people underestimate their own ability to endure challenges. They may believe they cannot handle certain difficulties. Yet when those challenges arrive, they discover an inner strength they never knew they possessed. This strength grows through patience and faith, proving that Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. Another wisdom hidden within hardship is purification. Difficult experiences often cleanse the heart from arrogance, attachment to worldly illusions, and reliance on temporary things. Through trials, believers begin to recognize what truly matters in life. Their priorities shift toward faith, compassion, and meaningful relationships rather than superficial achievements. Hardships also increase empathy. When a person experiences pain, they become more sensitive to the struggles of others. This understanding encourages kindness, generosity, and support within communities. Someone who has faced hardship is often better equipped to comfort others who are going through similar trials. Many blessings are born from moments of difficulty. A person may develop new skills, discover new opportunities, or form stronger relationships because of challenges they faced. What initially appeared as an obstacle may later become the foundation for personal growth or success. Without those hardships, certain strengths or talents might never have been discovered. Another hidden wisdom is that hardship can redirect a person away from harmful paths. Sometimes people become deeply attached to goals or situations that are not truly beneficial for them. When Allah removes those things through hardship, it may feel painful at first. But with time, the believer may realize that losing that particular path protected them from greater harm or guided them towards something far better. Hard moments also remind believers that this world is temporary. Comfort and hardship both pass with time, and the ultimate goal of life lies beyond this temporary existence. Trials encourage people to focus on eternal values such as faith, patience, and righteous deeds. In this way, hardship becomes a reminder of the deeper purpose of life. Patience during difficult times carries immense spiritual reward. Every moment of endurance strengthens a believer's connection with Allah. Even silent patience, where a person bears hardship without complaint, becomes an act of worship. Through this patience, the believer's heart becomes calmer and more trusting of Allah's wisdom. This often only after hardship passes that its hidden wisdom becomes clear. Looking back, many people realize that their most difficult experiences were also the moments that shaped their character and strengthened their faith the most. They recognize that what once seemed unbearable actually carried lessons that transformed their lives. Understanding that hard moments hide divine wisdom allows believers to face challenges with greater courage. Instead of seeing hardship as meaningless suffering, they begin to see it as part of Allah's plan for growth and purification. This perspective does not remove pain, but it gives pain a purpose. When a believer accepts that every hardship contains wisdom known to Allah, the heart becomes more patient and hopeful. Even during the darkest moments, they continue moving forward with faith, trusting that Allah's wisdom is unfolding in ways that may not yet be visible. Through patience, reflection, and trust, the hidden wisdom within hardship gradually reveals itself, guiding the believer toward greater strength, deeper faith, and a closer connection with Allah. When life feels unfair, remember that Allah is the most just. One of the most difficult emotions a human being experiences is the feeling that something in life is unjust. A person may work sincerely and still face failure. Someone may treat others kindly yet experience betrayal. There are moments when individuals see people doing wrong yet appearing to succeed, while those who try to remain righteous seem to struggle. These situations can create deep confusion in the heart, and sometimes a person quietly asks why things seem so unequal. In those moments, faith reminds the believer of an essential truth. Allah is perfectly just, even when human eyes cannot immediately see that justice. Human beings often judge fairness based on what they observe in the present moment. Our understanding of justice is usually connected to immediate outcomes. If good actions are followed by reward and bad actions are followed by punishment right away, we feel that justice is clear. But life does not always unfold so simple. Many situations take time before their full consequences appear. Because our vision is limited to a small part of the timeline, events can appear unfair when in reality they are part of a much larger process of divine justice. Allah's justice operates beyond human impatience. Nothing escapes His knowledge. Every intention, every action, every hidden thought, and every silent tear is known to Him. Even the smallest act of goodness is recorded, and every injustice done to someone is known. The believer finds comfort in knowing that nothing is ever ignored or forgotten by Allah. What may seem unnoticed in this world is fully seen by the one who never overlooks anything. Many times people assume that worldly success or comfort is proof that everything is fair. However, faith teaches that the temporary conditions of this world are not the final measure of justice. Some people may experience ease despite wrongdoing, while others may face hardship despite their sincerity. This does not mean that justice is absent. Instead, it means that the full picture of justice extends beyond what is visible in this life. Life in this world is part of a much greater journey that includes accountability and reward beyond what we can see now. When believers remember this, they begin to understand that apparent inequalities in the present moment do not represent the final outcome. The ultimate justice of Allah includes perfect knowledge of every circumstance, every intention, and every hidden factor that humans cannot see. Another aspect of Allah's justice is that He understands the struggles that people face internally. Sometimes a person may perform a small act of goodness that seems insignificant to others, yet it may carry immense sincerity. Allah values that sincerity more than external appearances. Likewise, someone may appear successful or powerful in the eyes of society while hiding harmful intentions or actions. Human beings may not recognize those realities, but Allah's justice considers them fully. Believing in Allah's justice also protects the heart from bitterness. When people feel that life is unfair, resentment can slowly grow within them. They may begin to compare themselves to others or question why certain things happen. However, when a believer remembers that Allah is the most just, their perspective changes. Instead of becoming consumed by frustration, they place their trust in Allah's wisdom and continue striving to do what is right. Patience becomes easier when the heart believes in divine justice. Even if a person faces unfair treatment from others, they know that Allah sees the truth of the situation. This awareness allows them to remain calm rather than seeking revenge or responding with anger. They understand that justice will eventually prevail in ways that Allah chooses. This belief also encourages people to maintain integrity even when it feels difficult. When someone is certain that Allah's justice is perfect, they realize that doing the right thing is always worthwhile, even if immediate rewards are not visible. They understand that every sincere effort is meaningful in the sight of Allah, regardless of how the world responds. Sometimes the wisdom behind difficult experiences becomes clear later in life. A person may face hardship that seems unfair at the time, only to realize years later that it led them toward growth, maturity, or opportunities they could not have imagined before. These realizations strengthen faith in Allah's justice because they reveal that events were unfolding with deeper wisdom than the person initially understood. Trusting in Allah's justice also encourages compassion toward others. Instead of judging people quickly, believers remember that Allah alone knows the full truth about every individual. This awareness promotes humility and kindness in human interactions. People become less focused on proving themselves right and more focused on living with sincerity and patience. Even when life presents painful experiences, the believer continues to hold on to hope because they trust in Allah's fairness. They know that every moment of patience, every act of kindness, and every struggle endured with faith carries meaning in the sight of Allah. Nothing is ever wasted. Every experience becomes part of a larger story guided by divine justice. Trust grows strongest when answers are missing. Human beings naturally desire explanations for the events in their lives. When something happens, the mind immediately begins searching for reasons. People want to understand why certain doors closed, why opportunities disappeared, or why difficulties arrived unexpectedly. Yet there are moments when answers simply do not appear. Questions remain unanswered, and the future seems uncertain. In these moments, trust in Allah becomes more powerful than understanding. When everything is clear and predictable, trust feels easy. A person can rely on their plans and feel confident in their expectations. But when answers disappear and the path ahead becomes uncertain, faith is truly tested. It is during these moments that the believer learns what it means to rely completely on Allah. Trust without answers requires humility. It means accepting that human knowledge is limited and that not every question will be resolved immediately. While the mind may continue searching for explanations, the heart learns to rest in the certainty that Allah knows what is best. This type of trust strengthens the spiritual connection between the believer and their Creator. Many people discover that unanswered questions lead them to a deeper faith. When life becomes unpredictable, they begin to rely more heavily on prayer, reflection, and remembrance of Allah. Their relationship with Allah becomes more personal and sincere because they are no longer depending solely on their own plans. Trusting Allah when answers are missing also develops patience. Instead of rushing toward conclusions or becoming overwhelmed by uncertainty, the believer learns to wait. They recognize that some answers arrive only with time and some wisdom becomes visible only after certain experiences unfold. This patience nurtures emotional stability and spiritual maturity. Another important aspect of trust is recognizing that not knowing everything can actually be beneficial. If humans were able to see the entire future, they might feel overwhelmed by the challenges ahead or become arrogant about upcoming successes. By allowing certain aspects of life to remain hidden, Allah protects the balance of human experience and encourages reliance on Him. Sometimes answers remain hidden because the lesson lies in the process itself. Through uncertainty, people learn perseverance, humility, and faith. These qualities might not develop if every situation were explained clearly from the beginning. The absence of immediate answers becomes a teacher that shapes the believer's character. Trusting Allah without answers also encourages emotional resilience. When individuals understand that uncertainty is part of life, they become less fearful when unexpected situations arise. Instead of panicking, they remind themselves that Allah's wisdom continues to guide events even when they cannot see the reason. There are moments when believers look back on their lives and realize that certain unanswered questions eventually found their answers in unexpected ways. Situations that once seemed confusing suddenly make sense when viewed from a later perspective. These experiences strengthen the heart's confidence in trusting Allah during future uncertainties. Even when answers never appear in this life, the believer remains at peace because they trust in Allah's wisdom. They understand that faith does not require complete knowledge of every event. Instead, faith means believing that Allah's guidance is always present, even when the path ahead is not fully visible. Through this trust, the believer learns to move forward step by step. They focus on doing what is right in the present moment while leaving the unseen future in Allah's care. This mindset removes the heavy burden of trying to control everything and replaces it with calm reliance on divine wisdom. As trust deepens, uncertainty no longer feels like a threat. Instead, it becomes an opportunity to strengthen faith. Each unanswered question becomes a reminder that life is guided by the one who knows every hidden detail. With this understanding, the believer continues their journey with patience, hope, and unwavering trust in Allah.